welcome back, and today I'm gonna talk about my tier list for the 2024 Republican nominees based on electability. So first of all, for Kanye, this should not be a surprise that if Kanye somehow the GOP nominee, he would lose by a landslide. His comments on minorities and Jewish people would hurt him, and Joe Biden or whoever the Democrat nominee would win by perhaps even bigger than Obama 2008. For the following one, for MTG, for Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG has interacted and been close to people that are friends of Kanye politically, and this would hurt her quite a lot with the Jewish vote. Not as much as Kanye, but still, she wouldn't do as well, alongside the fact that Democrats would have huge turnout against MTG as well. And for the next one, where is he at? So, oh yeah, Asa Hutchinson. So I know a lot of you don't know who he is. Basically, I don't know why he's even thinking of running. He is the outgoing governor of Arkansas who was term limited, so he's not gonna be in office in 2024, and I don't know why he's thinking of running. First of all, extremely low name recognition, almost nobody knows him. Second of all, he's from Arkansas, a ruby red state, and he's also old and lacks charisma, so I don't know why he's even running, but if he was the nominee, he would lose, and he should just drop out because it would just be sad to see him run if he does. For the D tier candidates, for the very first one on here, which is almost, I think he would almost be in the F tier. For Rick Scott, not only does he lack charisma, he's really not that appealing to people, but as shown in 2022, the Republicans really trusted him quite a lot to do well in the Senate, and he fumbled the bag so bad. So if he was nominated in 2024, he would lose. I think he would still win Florida, but all the other swing states would go for the Democrats easily, if not more. And let's go to Chris Christie. Where is he at? Chris Christie. How am I missing him? There we go. So Chris Christie, 8 years ago, wait, back in 2012, yeah, 10 years ago, Chris Christie would have actually been an S tier candidate, because in 2012 he was extremely popular, kind of like Ron DeSantis a tiny bit, but then he got hit by a couple of corruption scandals, and he should just retire. He just doesn't have the appeal nowadays, and it's just his star faded since 2012, and yeah, he would lose against almost anyone. For the next one, for Larry Elder. So Elder, a lot of people are bashing him because Newsom in the November election did quite horribly, and people are kind of like think to themselves, how come Newsom did so bad but he did so much better against Elder? And this has tarnished Elder's electability. I'm not too sure if Elder was a horrible candidate in 2021 or if it was just the national environment being different in both occasions, but he hasn't held public office, and not only that, he still has that loser stigma still. So for the next one, we're getting to the big ones. First Stefanik. So yeah, I think that's how you say her name, Stefanik. Oh wait, I think it's Elise Stefanik, and she is New York's, I think, let me check that out. She is the House member for the 21st District, yeah, New York, and she has been linked to Donald Trump quite a lot, and she may be his running mate in 2024. She doesn't really offer much. The House representative to president is really a hard pipeline for many to go to, and she doesn't have as much electability points compared to other people in the list, and that's pretty much about it. The only way she even gets close to the presidency if Trump endorses her for some reason, but we will see. Moving on to Nikki Haley. So Nikki Haley has always been one of those Republicans that has been out potentially being the Republican nominee someday. She's the former governor of South Carolina and also served as U.S. ambassador to the UN. But apart from that, she recently hasn't done much. I think if she held public office, she would be in the C tier category, but even though she would appeal in the suburbs, she would do horribly in the rural areas and the Trump voters, and that's why I have her at that point. In kind of a similar tone for someone like that, for Mike Pence. So Mike Pence, a lot like Nikki Haley, Pence would do amazing with former Republican voters like McCain Republicans and Romney Republicans, and he would do quite well with them, but I think he would do terribly with a new coalition. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Pence is a nominee then. There will be surely a third party run by somebody else. Because Trump fans despise Mike Pence quite a lot after 2020 and all that sort of stuff, and he simply just wouldn't be able to unify the Republican Party, and would be quite a divided time. And also, quite similar to that, once again, I actually do have Donald Trump here. The main reason I do have Donald Trump here is because his appeal to independent voters is almost gone completely. It just has, ever since 2016, he went from being an S tier candidate, then an A tier, then B tier, then C tier, and now he's a D tier candidate. Donald Trump has strengthened his base quite a lot. It is quite solid, but once he goes out from that circle, there's almost nobody else that would join him in 2024, and that's why the only way I would see Donald Trump winning is if there's an economic recession. But even then, the problem is with Donald Trump, he's just gonna talk about 2020 and not talk about important issues that people in the suburbs and just anyone in the country would care about, and that would hurt him. His electability would be down horribly, and the only way I see him getting out of this grave, to be honest, a grave, is that he doubles down on populism once again and goes back to somewhat like 2016 and just basically goes nuclear against the establishment. But I doubt he does that. And yeah, he's on the same level as people like right here, because he just has no appeal to independent candidates, simply put, and would lose to almost any Democrat that is S or A tier, maybe B tier, but we will see. And yeah, for the C tier, I think, yes, for the first one in the C tier, for Tucker Carlson, yes. So funnily enough, my hot take is that I actually do have Tucker above Trump. I think it would be interesting to see how Tucker does in a presidential election, just purely because of his coalition. I still don't think Tucker would do good, but it would be quite unique to see how he does in the Rust Belt. But he would bleed a lot with college voters, not as much as Trump, but still he wouldn't do as well as with those, alongside the fact that Democrats, just like Donald Trump, would have record high turnout, and that would just not be a good sign for the GOP, and he would probably lose just like people here. And for the following one, for someone that might be in the vice presidential pick, for Mike Garcia. So Mike Garcia, he is quite a juggernaut, or I don't know if he's a juggernaut, lucky, or I don't know how he does it, but he always comes out winning, even if the district is in almost Los Angeles almost. Mike Garcia, Latino, from California, House Representative, so that does take away a bit from his appeal. As I said before with Stefanik, sorry, I don't know. Mike Garcia, he would do quite well with Latino voters, I think, and it would be quite unique to see how well he does in the South, but as said before, he wouldn't do as well as other people, and lacks name recognition because he's a House member. For another one that would give Democrats really, would it be record high turnouts? Perhaps. For Rand Paul. So Rand Paul, back I would say 2020, I would have put him back in B tier actually. Or if this tier list was about, Republican, who the people in the GOP would like to run, he would be in the B tier for, of course. But Rand Paul, not only is he from a ruby red state, Democrats would have record high turnout. I think Rand Paul is one of the most hated Republicans by many Democrats. I think he's probably below like Trump. And would he be above DeSantis? I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised about that. And the one good thing about Rand Paul, he's kind of a bit within the Goldilocks zone, so a lot of people, whether they are libertarians, conservatives, or populists, they would be okay with Rand Paul, but he would give Democrats record high turnout. Moving on to Larry Hogan. So Larry Hogan is probably one of the most likely on this list to run, apart from, the big ones like Trump, Pence, and Chris Christie technically. So Larry Hogan, just like Tucker Carlson, he wouldn't be a populist, of course, unlike Tucker. I think Hogan's coalition would be quite unique, and it would be quite interesting to see how it goes, especially because he's the outgoing Republican governor of the deep blue state of Maryland, so it would be quite interesting, but he would lose, I think, against almost any major Democrats, because the party would just not unify behind him, but maybe he would do quite better in the suburbs, but we will see if how the polls show him in 2024. So for the next one, for Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz from Texas, he's also the senator from there, of course. Ted has always been one of those people that has always been close to the presidency or getting some major appointment. For example, Trump could have easily picked Cruz as his running mate in 2016 because he came second, by the way, but he didn't. Ted Cruz on a national level, he wouldn't do that good. I think he would do okay in the South, but that would be about it. And would suffer the same fate of Rand Paul of getting record high turnout within Democrats, and furthermore, he would just serve more, I think, of a Republican in 2024, 2028 wins. Ted Cruz would be an easy choice for a SCOTUS filling, and Ted Cruz would 100% be quite conservative if he would get to the Supreme Court, and just think he would be more useful in that matter for the GOP technically. And now for Greg Abbott. So Greg Abbott, I think he is more electable than Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz just doesn't have the favorability ratings and is less and it's just less liked. So Greg Abbott, he did okay in 2022. He did underperform my expectations by a couple percentages. Some people, like some populists, would not like Greg Abbott being the Republican nominee, but I do think if he was paired with some decent VP pick, he would do okay on a national level. But he's also older than what most people would like him, and that's one of the major factors. He's not even close. I mean, he's not on the B tier level. For the following candidates, for Chris Sununu. So Chris Sununu is the Republican governor of New Hampshire. Even with Chris Sununu on the ticket, I still see it being barely on the Democratic column. And a bit like Larry Hogan, his coalition would be more towards the suburbs and less about the working class. And it would be quite intriguing to see how he would do, but he would not be able to unify the GOP, just a major issue with a lot of these candidates. And moving on, for Tim Scott. So Tim Scott has been one of the people that the senators themselves have been quite they want Tim Scott to be the GOP nominee in 2024. A lot of the actual politicians wouldn't mind him being on the top of the ticket in a couple of years' time, and he would do quite well, in my opinion, in the Southeast, in Georgia, North Carolina, and he would get more of the African American vote, of course. But apart from that, maybe he could win Arizona, I'll give him that. But I don't see him winning Nevada, the Rust Belt, and that just cuts him off from a victory. It will be quite close, though, which I do give him that. I think will be like 280 something for Biden, or 290 at most, and that would be quite good. I think in 2024, with how things are at the moment, that will be an okay performance by the GOP because of how things are going. Okay, so moving on, let's go to Mike Pompeo. So Mike Pompeo, he's actually lost a lot of weight, so yeah, fun fact, I don't know why. So Mike Pompeo, he would be a rogue shout for Donald Trump if he wants to be, if Trump picks him as a VP pick. I think if Trump doesn't find anyone, Pompeo probably comes to mind. Even though I'm not too sure why he's really adamant of running in 2024 against Trump. Pompeo, I think, he is from Kansas, and he will do quite well in the 2nd District of Nebraska as well, which does separate him from the other candidates. And let's go to someone close to that area of the Prairie States for Joni Ernst. So Joni Ernst, even though she doesn't have a lot of name recognition, I think she, just like Pompeo, would be quite well, and she would win Iowa by a really safe margin because she's from there, Iowa senator. And she may even have a shot at the 2nd District of Nebraska as well, but apart from that, it's really, there's not that much for her. Perhaps she would do better in some other areas, but not that much. So for Kim Reynolds, Kim Reynolds, the deciding factor on why I have Reynolds above Ernst is because she's the governor of the state, and she would get more of a outsider stigma, which would be quite good for the 2024 election, which does help her just a tiny bit above Ernst. And that's it for the C tier. So for the first one in the B tier, let's start off for Lee Zeldin. So Lee Zeldin ran on a Law and Order campaign in 2022, the old reliable for the GOP, and he almost won. And I think he only lost by around, what, 5% around that margin. And if he's able to somehow, I don't think he's going to be able at all to get public office or some major job. He wants to become chairman of the GOP in 2024, but he wasn't able to, and he's now unemployed. And his appeal, I think if he ran on a Law and Order campaign once again, I think he would do okay. And he has shown that he knows the tactics in order to put up a fight, as seen in the New York governor race. But I do think he would do way better as a VP pick for someone else, and that's about it for Lee Zeldin. So for the following one, for Josh Hawley. So Josh Hawley is one of the few kind of populists that actually does follow some form of a populism in the Senate, because there's a lot of Republicans out there that say they are populists, but in fact, once they get into office, become a generic conservative, and Josh Hawley has proven that he has shown to follow some forms of populism. And Hawley, he has a couple of issues. So first of all, he's from Missouri, which is pretty much a red state, and not deep red, but still not competitive. And just like Rand Paul and some other people, he would give Democrats really high turnout because of that picture and just the things he did on January 2021, which will hurt his appeal to independence for a long time. I still think he should run someday in 2028 or 2032 because he is more of a true populist, unlike a lot of these people, and it will be quite interesting to see how he does on the presidential level. And yeah, that's about it. So for the following one, for Marco Rubio. So Rubio would put up a fight, I think. He would get really good numbers with Latino voters. He does lack appeal, charisma-wise, which is a bit of a problem for him. But he would counter that by having an okay amount of appeal to independent voters, which is why he's higher on the list and compared to other people. And yeah, Florida Senator, if you didn't know that. And for my final one, the B tier category for Brian Kemp. I think Brian Kemp, he would be one of the hardest ones for the Democrats in 2024. Not only would he win Georgia, I think he would do slightly better in the suburbs compared to other people. He would be one of the harder ones for the Democrats. He would also do quite well. Not extremely well in the suburbs, but he wouldn't do as bad as other people on the list. And he would also win Georgia, by the way. Georgia, which is swinging quite hard for the Democrats. This could be the last hurrah for the GOP, and he would probably be able to win states like Arizona, which would help the GOP, alongside maybe Nevada. He would also win North Carolina, but not too sure about the Rust Belt. It would be quite interesting to see how Brian Kemp would do in 2024 if he runs, even though I doubt that. But he would be quite a strong candidate and would put up a good fight against the Democrats. For the A tier candidate, it shouldn't be a surprise. I do have Glenn Youngkin right here. I think Glenn Youngkin, his main positive is that he's probably one of the most charismatic. I think he may be the most charismatic person on the list, actually. He's, I wouldn't call him like Obama or Reagan level of charisma. You can tell that he was a CEO and actually knows how to talk to people. And that would help him in the suburbs quite a lot. And he does have a decent smile, which a lot of people forget that looks is something you need on the presidential level. And if he's able to somewhat replicate what he did in Virginia in 2021, with getting decent number in the rules and getting some decent numbers in the suburbs, that would be amazing for the GOP. I doubt he even gets close to what he did in 2021 on a national level, but even if he does kind of similar to that, or just kind of 50% of that, that would basically give him not the presidency, but that would make the race almost a toss-up. His only issue is that he's only been governor for less than 2 years, so that's the only take back from him, but that's about it for him. So for my S-tier candidate, this shouldn't be a surprise. Ron DeSantis is a S-tier candidate, in my opinion. I think Ron DeSantis would do quite amazing in the South, in Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. I think he's one of the few candidates that would be able to win all those 3 states in the South. Not only that, he has the momentum, he has the money, he also won re-election, something that Glenn Youngkin will not be able to do for a while, because, you know, it's Virginia, they have to like run 4 years later. But yeah, before I talk too much about Virginia, for Ron DeSantis, he would do quite well. I think he wouldn't do as well with working class voters like Trump before, like Trump 2020 or something like that, but he would counter that by having appeal in the suburbs, which would help him quite a lot. And he would, I don't know how he would do in Wisconsin, but he wouldn't really give Democrats a run for their money. It would be a really, really close election. A Ron DeSantis and Glenn Youngkin ticket, in my opinion, would be the strongest one for the GOP in 2024, and here's the list. There we go. Thank you for watching. Feel free to leave a like, join the channel membership, and see you next time.